SEC Media Days are over, and we started by talking about Brent Venables and our thoughts on his takes during the entire media session. Now we got to talk about the players. Told you to come out today, so let's dive into that. Before we do that, welcome to Unfair Sports. I'm your host, Jay. Thank you for pulling up to the channel. So I had a blast at SEC Media Days. We saw a lot of cool stuff, met some great people, shook some hands, kissed some babies. Didn't really kiss any babies, but I did get the opportunity to see a lot and hear from a lot. And the players gave us the goods. R. Mason Thomas, Robert Spears-Jennings, as well as John Mateer, of course, were in attendance with Brent Venables and Jim Nagy, who's floating around. If you haven't seen my interview with Nagy, go check it out on Locked On Sooners. Get you a little perspective on the recruiting game and being a general manager at the collegiate level. It's a different animal. But I did get the opportunity. We sat down with Robert Spears-Jennings. Me and John did on Locked On Sooners. That interview was there as well. I'll make sure I have the links in the description below so you guys can find it quickly. Don't leave yet, though. Watch him after this video is done, and I'll even tag him at the end. But after me and John did the Robert Spears-Jennings stuff, the players had their media sessions, and they all dropped some nuggets, in my personal opinion, definitely worth talking about. So I'm going to break that down. We'll start with R. Mason Thomas. We'll go to Robert Spears-Jennings, and then we'll close with the guy himself, John Mateer, who was really all eyes were on him there at Media Day. So let's jump right into it. First and foremost, R. Mason Thomas. I'm not going to lie, man. I was very much impressed with listening to him talk and hearing him really accept the fact that now he's one of the true leaders there. He was dressed to the nines. I don't know if you all saw it, but he had some sneakers on that he's been keeping up with this grease theme, right? If you haven't seen them, this is what the sneakers look like there. Shout out to K-Ref. Took a picture of them, but he had the grease logo. They were custom designs. Someone drew on them or whatnot. Add the little red, the flare. They were fly. So I was impressed seeing that. And of course, he was pretty excited talking about those bad boys. But besides that, his interviewing, man, was good. And he gave you some good nuggets. One thing he talked about that jumped out to me, I'm going to give you guys probably a couple of nuggets for each player. That way we're not here for 30 minutes because we don't need to be doing a whole live show on that. But he talked about, first and foremost, Brent Venables taking over play call, his excitement about that, and the things he needs to work on for himself, which is he wants to be better at stopping the run. Right now, he said as an outside linebacker, which we know he's an edge, but, Pepsi Coke, based upon the definitions they want to go by. But he talked about that's the one thing he needs to be better at, is he needs to focus on the ability to get stronger, bigger, and be able to handle those runs. And that jumped out to me in excitement that, okay, you see what you need to get better at. He knows he's a good pass rusher. And we've talked about him and raved about him even when he came in as a true freshman. He was a dude that was unstoppable, but he needed to get bigger and stronger. And he got that while maintaining his speed. And then, of course, Brent Venables taking over play call, and he's like, ain't no change in language or anything like that. Same playbook. And he gets to get all the stuff from Clemson that excited him about playing for Brent Venables when BV took the job. So they don't expect any drop-off. They expect it actually to increase. And I got to talk about that a little bit later, too. I think I'm going to do a whole show on that component of BV taking over play call, being a play caller similar to other coaches, because I'm curious to what people's thoughts on which one is better, offense or defense. But we'll do that for another day. Keep your eyes open for that show. And then, of course, he talked about the offense. We got a whole new offense, folks. And that offense being new is interesting because it's John Mateer now running the show with Ben Arbuckle. Ben Arbuckle running the show, John Mateer running the, executing the show. And for him, the bigger thing was, it's different. It's different, but he likes it. He thinks that people are going to have problems with this offense. And he raved about John Mateer. And just, how, they talk about how funny he is, swaggy he is, and all of that stuff. And so, the players are sold and bought into Mateer. He's walked in as a leader. And I love that because we definitely needed that. Let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. If you haven't watched the entire thing, I'll make sure that they get posted I'll post some links so you guys can watch their actual interviews or whatnot. We've got the videos. We can throw them up so you guys can watch every single one of them. Next up was my guy, Robert Spears-Jennings. So, of course, I spent some time with RSJ. We talked a little shop before. Cool cat, watches the show, him and his people. So they know how much I rave about him. He's one person I feel like is going to be the massive breakout this year. And he's one, graded wise, he was one of the top safeties in the country last year. And I expect him to keep that going. And he talked about some of the things they need to do and be better at. And so when that conversation went down, not only was he fly as a kite, he was iced out and glistening, but and well moisturized. But he talked good about the thing that this defense needs to do to be successful. One thing is communication. He said that to numerous people throughout the entire day, that they've got to be better at communicating. And he said that has been their emphasis. And I love the quote, as a quiet defense is a dead defense. And so they're emphasizing the communication throughout. Dog, he had some quotes for you at media days. He was not holding back with not only his statements, but at the same time, he was pointing out the excitement on this defensive side. And knowing that he has to step up as a leader, that's the one thing in his mind. The coaches have told him that, but Billy Bowman was basically grooming him and prepping him for this, when he was rolling out. And he said, they've been pushing me to be more vocal. And that's what I'm focused on as well for me is to grow on that. And so he's loving it. Plus he loves BV as the defensive coordinator. Said one of the greatest defensive coaches ever. He has nothing but faith and trust in him because, for them, they know the plays. They know what he likes. They know the aggressiveness that BV likes. And they're going to execute on that. So the expectation is there's not going to be a drop-off on this defense. And I've mentioned this before here on the show. I expect this defense to be better than last year. And it's nothing against Billy or Danny, Woody, or any of those guys, Ethan Downs and all of that. It's more so that the offense being able to be more complementary to their game. That means that this defense won't have to do everything. This defense won't have to be everything. This defense won't have to run everything. But we'll still lean heavily into this defense. I think that's the one thing a lot of people don't get. We're going to be leaning heavily into this defense, but the offense is going to contribute. And that's going to be the fun part. Now, quote of the night, though, had to go to Robert Spears-Jennings. And before that, he talked about the guys that bounced, Nick Anderson, Bauer Sharp. He still communicates with them, and he's going to be excited about seeing them back in town. He's, of course, wished them well, and he thinks they're going to be fine. So that's always a plus. And he talked about, and everybody was very complimentary of Jackson Arnold. And I really appreciate that everybody did that. You don't need to bag on a dude that had a bad year. The fans, y'all do enough of that for him. The players don't need to jump in on that. They understood the whole circumstances of whatnot, but they did point out that this offense is much different. Like, it's going to be a beast of an offense to deal with, and they enjoy that. But Robert Spears-Jennings had the quote of the night. Period. Point blank. I don't care what nobody say. He said, they asked him about the tough schedule, and he said, you look at this schedule, what I see is a whole bunch of money games. That means scouts are going to be watching it, and everybody's going to be all eyes on us. So it's less that it's going to be a tough schedule. It's more so a great opportunity, right? That's me paraphrasing what this dude said, and that was a dope quote. Like, he's ready for it. He's like, it's going to be an opportunity. We're going to go out here and play some tough teams, and all this is going to do, as you know, this is his celebration, money games. Games for the scouts that they know going to be watching them. Hey, man, the confidence that he threw out there and exerted, that got your boy excited. Plus, being a 2022, this is his team, and he knows it. Same thing with R. Mason Thomas. Being 22s, this is their team. They ain't going to have to go ahead and run this bad boy, and they know that that's going to be the most important thing. So, Robert Spears-Jennings, let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments and know your thoughts. I really appreciated a lot of how he raved about, not only the former teammates, but the way this offense looks. They all feel like it's a dramatic difference in what they've seen in practice. And so I trust that. Because that's all I've heard too. I've heard that this is night and day when it comes to the offense last year and this year. The bigger thing is that this offense does make mistakes, but they also go out there and do some things. They bounce back quickly. And that's where John Mateer comes into play. And John Mateer, he gave you some good stuff too. And so when John came up to the table, he talked really big about the running back room. A lot of people asked him about that, like Jaden Otten, which he is now quickly becoming a person that people are paying attention to. I like and I also don't like, because I told y'all the one thing for me is I kind of enjoy the fact that it's heavy focus on Mateer to be the leader here, while at the same time we're allowing our guy Jaden Ott to kind of quietly go under the radar. It was raved about when he was picked up. More so Mateer talk, and then now it's getting more and more everybody talking about Ott. And Mateer talked about him being a great blocker, running the ball. He does everything. And he talked about everybody else in the running back room and how deep and strong that room should be this year. He thinks the O-line is going to be a lot stronger this year. And he likes what he has in front of him. He loves his wide receiver room. He went through all them dudes. Talked about Deion Burks. He talked about J. Mike, as he said, Jermichael Carter, who came in. He talked about some of the young guys. Mateer came out there and made you feel like he's a full-fledged leader of this team. And like he's got control of it. I think that's probably the thing that jumped out is you can tell that he's got control. But he also talked about, learning and what he wants to grow on, the things he wants to get better at is decision making. He wants to improve, the speed of how he processes things. At the same time, he wants to be able to make sure that his teammates do well. Talked about Baker and everybody, doing the comparisons. And he's like, it's an honor, while at the same time, he wants to say, he's going to be John Mateer, and it's a great opportunity for him to be able to do some stuff. But I asked him myself, I was like, what's it been like going up against Brent Venables in his defense? And he's like, it's been challenging, but it's done nothing but make me a lot better. Not easy to go against one that good of a defense every day, because you got to come with it every day. And I tried to, and this offense does, but it doesn't make it easy. They're good, and schematically they're good and confusing, and they got a lot of good players. And then, of course, picked at him, was like, all right, you talked about running. What's one player that you don't want to see whenever you're scrambling? And he's like, none of them. He's like, I don't ever want to face my defense. So that tells you that he understands what he's going to be going up against, especially here in the SEC. Like, so many people are like, I wonder if he can translate in the SEC. And if there's one thing that I know that I've been told that is truth about how Brent Venables does his defense is that he doesn't hold back. And I remember hearing about that last year with Arnold out there and the struggles he had. I mean, heck, if y'all have been around, if you've heard me talk about, you've heard me talk about this before, that when BV was just the DC and him and Kevin Wilson were going back and forth, one thing that he said was that when they practice, Kevin Wilson said this in an interview, that BV would just go at them so hardcore, and BV would basically call up their plays while they were doing it, to where they had to physically move the ball up and down the field in order to get plays off and practice in certain circumstances, because they couldn't drive. BV was so prepared and he was so aggressive, and that helped mold Sam Bradford into a Heisman Trophy winner. That's what it was. He was getting his butt kicked every day, but he didn't got better. That was what I was hoping out of course, the Jackson Arnold. You didn't get that. But it appears that John Mateer is, once he takes an L, he's going right back at him, borderline same spot, and he's completing the pass. He's recognizing where his trajectory needs to change, where he needs to adjust it, and he's going back at them full strength. So Mateer is giving you everything you're hoping for in your quarterback. The confidence, he's very vocal. I know that Jackson Arnold was more quiet. He's more of a reserved guy. Nice kid, but he's much quieter. Not Mateer. No, sir. Not him. He is not one that's going to be that quiet. So if you keep your eyes on how this should play out, man, you about to get some special stuff from our boy, John Mateer. Let me know what y'all think. Hop in the comments. I want to hear y'all's thoughts. How y'all feeling? What y'all thinking? It's going to be a year. Now, we'll be live, of course, on Sunday. Going to talk about what the opposition said about the team. So keep your eyes out for those videos. We'll dive into those like crazy. But the one thing to remember and understand is that no matter what, this team is going to bounce back from last year. The question is, how big of a bounce back is it going to be? I mean, SEC, the media got them about 10th in the conference. I mean, I know that a lot of you are like 10th in the conference is not good enough. And when I say I understand, don't think that I'm like blowing you off or anything, because I totally understand where everybody believes that. But there's some things you got to keep in mind as well as in perspective. Because 10th in the conference last year was 8-5. That was the Florida Gators. They finished 10th in the conference. So, and in 8-5, Texas A&M was like 7th in the conference, and that was because they had a better conference record. 8-5, 9-4, 10. Yeah, all the double digit. Going up to double digits, it can happen in that area. Right above Florida was Missouri and Ole Miss last year. They finished the season 10-3, 5-3 in conference. So if we get 10 wins, there's a possibility. Hopefully that 10th win isn't in a bowl game. Hopefully it is early, but we'll see. All right, we'll be back again. Like I said, we'll talk what the opposition said, and we'll chop it up soon. Peace.